Hi everyone, it's Sonia McDonald, and I'm the CEO and founder of Leadership HQ and McDonald Inc., and also the Outstanding Leadership Awards. And today we have a remarkable leader at the Leadership Lounge. And I was smiling because I know he's really humble, Mark Richardson. And what an impressive bio. I'm not going to read all of it, but you are amazing. As soon as I spoke to Mark, I reached out to Mark a couple of weeks ago about him and also Dr. Gareth Andrews speaking at our current Courage conference that's coming up. And as soon as I spoke to Mark, I felt like I'd known him all my life. He's just someone that I knew was so passionate about, I don't know, lifting others up to be more, and also around leadership. And also looking at his bio, he's an experienced chairman. He's also a board director. He's a business leader. You have to look at his LinkedIn profile and his bio. He has been incredible around making a difference to so many people, particularly around Australia and the globe. And I'm really excited to have him speaking, as well as Gareth, and I know that you are really passionate about this exposition as well. And there's already people that are commenting at the moment, which is great. Thank you so much, everyone. Christy, thank you for commenting already, but around the last great first as well. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that, but welcome to the Leadership Lounge.
Well, thanks, Sonia. What a terrific introduction. I need to get you to introduce me more often. That's wonderful. And, for everybody that can see and hear me, I hope that in the next little while, as Sonia and I have a conversation, that something of value comes from that for you. I can't wait to see you at the conference, which I'm hugely excited about and very much looking forward to.
It's going to be an amazing conference and I think we need more courage today than we have ever before. And having yourself and Gareth and also Paul Scareth speak, and also Christine Holgate, plus the other speakers we've got. I know collectively we're all really committed and passionate about building a world of kind, courageous and inclusive leaders and leadership, and also how we can all make a difference and an impact, which you and Gareth are doing. But tell us about the last great first, which I think is the most amazing name. So tell us about that.
I will actually, yes. You can see in the background various books and maps of Antarctica. And Antarctica is the world's largest and driest continent. You can easily fit the whole of Australia and the whole of the United States into Antarctica. It's responsible for roughly 2/3 of the world's weather. It stretches 5,500 kilometers from one side to the other. And nobody has ever skied unsupported, from what's called the Bay of Whales and the edge of the permanent ice shelves all the way across Antarctica via the South Pole to the Weddell Sea, which is the other side of the map that you can see behind me. And that's after 120 years of exploration. And never has Antarctica been more important to the world. Its effect on our weather patterns through climate change is going to be, and is already, very, very dramatic. So the two doctors, Dr. Gareth Andrews and Dr. Richard Stevenson, are going to take this crossing from October to February, and they'll ski 2,600 kilometers, all the while dragging a 200-kilogram sledge without any external assistance at all. And that's a fundamental part of what makes this expedition, the first such crossing. And during that crossing, they're going to collect climate data for the Antarctic Science Foundation, which will release that data for all of humanity. And they're also collecting human performance data using special technology that will be applicable for any long, cold endurance activities, including, for example, space flight. And why are we doing it? Well, there are three reasons. The first is the crossing itself, which is an extraordinarily ambitious undertaking, never been done before, and it's something that Gareth and Richard have been training for years. The second is to engage our community. And we've taken a pretty big step in that area. We're working with Scouts Australia and also Scouts New Zealand, Scouts USA, Scouts Norway, Scouts UK. And collectively, that's 50 million members worldwide. And we want to engage as many of them as we possibly can to inspire them about conservation and the effect that Antarctica has on our global climate-related activities. And the third reason, of course, is that very climate change aspect itself. You know, what a critical time it is to be aware of, you know, how we are affecting the world in a negative way, and what we have to do to change that and affect the world in a positive way. If you can hear a noise in the background, that's the council chopping down a tree outside my office window right now. And here I am talking about environmental and climate activities. So sorry about that.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
It is a bit. I'm sure they're doing a nice job of pruning it rather than chopping it down. So there we go.
So someone would like to ask a question. So Jocelyn's asked, what type of leadership, so I'll put it up if you'd like, what type of leadership is required to address climate change in businesses, both large and growing businesses, and how can businesses lobby the government through their leadership to save Antarctica and our ice caps?
I think that's an outstanding example of what we need in our political and business leaders, which is the courage to speak out. You know, there is a wonderful example of that, and I'm not linked in any way to Volvo, the car company. I'm not their spokesperson. I'm not, you know, in any kind of commercial relationship with them. But if that question allows you to look online at the Volvo global website, you'll see their CEO talking for an 18-minute video about what they see as the #1 safety test for the future, and that is climate. So they've made it front and center of their objectives to be 100% carbon neutral by 2030. And they're going to only be selling electric cars from 2025. I think that's their aspiration, certainly by 2030. Now that to me is a bold, courageous, and clear statement of what we can do. And all of their advertising at the moment is around Antarctica. It's all about not allowing Antarctica to melt and to disappear. Now, what can we as individuals do? Well, I think we can reach out and we can support entities and leaders who are expressing their ambition to enhance the global climate environment rather than to destroy the global climate environment. And I think we need to call out those people who are not doing that. I think the absence of doing something is very bad. It's very important to actually do things like this expedition, you know, to draw attention to that fragile ecological system.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's why I remember when I was approached about the expedition and about helping get your message out there and what you're trying to do to create an impact and change so we're all aware of it, because I look at what they're doing and how you're also, you know, how we can also support you as well. And if you would love to support the expedition, please go to the Courage Conference website and you'll see a link there where you can actually support the team. And also if we could support you, I mean, what else could we do to support other than obviously talking about it, sharing like examples of what you're all doing through the last Great First, but also what Volvo are doing as well. I mean, what else can we be doing to really get the message, or even the small acts of courage that we can do to help support you?
Well, obviously there's the links that you can follow on Instagram, on Facebook, on our social media platforms. If you'd like to be more actively involved in the expedition, have a look at our Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, which we've just launched. And you can find that easily by just Googling The Last Great Thirst. You would love to get your messages of support on the website. And I just want to make that, I want to reiterate that it's a threefold objective. You know, the effect on our community, the ability to research into climate change science and ecological and environmental science, as well as the crossing. And the two explorers are not professional explorers. You know, they're both doctors. And Dr. Gareth Andrews, who's speaking at the conference, has spent the last 14 or 15 months on the front line of the COVID-19 epidemic, actually in Wales. He went over there expecting to have 12 months reconnecting with his British family, and instead spent 12 months in highly intensive emergency care situations as an anaesthetist, looking after critically ill patients. And one of the things he's courageous enough to talk about is the effect that that had on him as an individual, where literally he would be saying to people in answer to their question, which was always, will I wake up? And half the people that he had to treat didn't. So he was the last face they saw in that COVID battleground. And it's quite emotional to even talk about it here. And I've spoken about it quite a few times. But Gareth can speak about that, as well as his own family and the effect that that had on them, as well as the excitement of this great expedition. I think together with Christine and Paul, you've got three wonderful speakers, each bringing different attributes to the conference.
Yeah, I think this is why we are creating or driving this movement, because we need to hear stories like this. We need to hear how people are being truly courageous out there, and how we can all, no matter how big or small, make an impact or make a difference. Like the smallest words and actions can have the greatest ripple effect. And I think that listening to what Gareth is has been doing, what great leadership, what incredible leadership. I got an email from him last week, and he was so much gratitude and so much kindness in his email to me around speaking at this conference. And I was thinking, wow, I'm the one that should be showing all that. I was like, I'm the one that feels so honored to have him speak, and I'm even feeling even more honored and blessed to have him speak. So in terms of and thanks for sharing that as well. What made you get involved? What was the catalyst? What was the drive for you to get involved?
Oh, look, there's a great story here, and it's beautiful to describe. For those people who don't know me, I spent 11 or 12 years at Bain & Company, building the business here. But I left Bain, way back in '99. And after a couple of years of, wondering what I was going to do, actually ended up forming my own private equity firm, Woolsey Private Equity. Yeah. And that grew fairly substantially. And by the 2005, 2006, 2007 period, we started to develop a team which ended up being 12 full-time investment professionals. Along the way, Gareth Andrews had arrived in Australia and was studying medicine and started dating my wife Polly's goddaughter. So, here's me building our business, and here's Gareth arriving in Australia, and subsequently he married Andrea, who's our goddaughter. And if Andrea's watching, she's a wonderful, wonderful person. They've got two beautiful children. Back in 2013, Gareth and Richard approached me and said, look, we're doing the magnetic North Pole expedition. Would you be prepared to help us in some financial capacity with that expedition? And by that stage, it was about 2016 or 17. And I said, yeah, sure, but I'm not just going to do that. You're going to have to demonstrate to my team, the Wolseley team, and that this is a worthwhile thing to do. We're not just going to give money for people to go and have a ski holiday. And so they did, and it was all about leadership and how to maintain performance under unbelievably difficult and trying circumstances, how to react to unexpected scenarios where you're the only people who can make a difference to the outcome. How to go day after day after day in the pursuit of a huge objective and not be distracted and not be taken off course. And it was a very, very successful engagement. That photograph, which you can just see of those two people, I'm trying to point there.
In the red.
In the red. That's actually Gareth and Richard at the magnetic North Pole, holding the Wolseley private equity flag. Now, anybody out there wants that held at the South Pole, please get in touch. So back in 2019, Gareth came here and said, I've got something to ask you. Would you be prepared to chair this expedition, the last great first, 2,600 kilometers skiing across Antarctica from the edge of the permanent ice shelf in the Ross Sea to the edge of the permanent ice shelf on the Weddell Sea. And my reaction to him was, you must be joking. I can't ski, I don't like the cold, and I'm not paying for it. And anyway, one thing led to another, and here I am. And I now spend roughly 25 to 30 hours a week on the expedition. It's been fantastically exciting. I can't tell you how much I've learned about Antarctica. Everybody knows where it is. Everybody knows about the South Pole and the North Pole. But to actually delve into it and discover, wonderful information about Antarctica has been just a real journey.
What's been probably the most wonderful or insightful learning about Antarctica?
Well, in the 100 or so years since the what's called the heroic era of exploration, there have been dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of breakthrough expeditions on this continent. But nobody has ever done this expedition. And what has proven to be the most exciting element for me personally is the level of interest that people have in Antarctica. Everybody wants to know about it. And a lot of people think, for example, that the whole continent is full of penguins and wildlife. Well, it's not. There's nothing there. Once you get, more than perhaps 20 or 30 kilometers from the coastline, it's the most uniquely isolated and wild of all continents. It's literally the same space that was there when the Scots and the Amundsen's and the Shackletons of this world set about exploring it 110, 120 years ago. To understand its effect, though, on the globe, and to work with the Antarctic Science Foundation to become educated about how the vast majority of the world's weather is created in Antarctica. Certainly all of the Southern Hemisphere's weather is created there. And the effect that even 10% melt of Antarctica would be devastating for the globe. And to be involved in anything that draws attention to that and create a difference has been very, very exciting.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm reading Shackleton's book again and the story there, and it's great to see that they're passionate about that as well, because not only is it about this expedition, but it's also about the leadership that they're demonstrating, the leadership around, leading through crises or leading through challenges or, the unknown, which I think that is shining a light on such great examples of leadership, considering what we're all going through as a globe, because we're seeing, I think, the best and worst of leaders at the moment. And they're showing such great leadership. But I just have another question. someone's asking questions, which is so great. Just wants to know, as a business that helps organisations with their processes and systems of work, what can I do to build in green behaviours and processes that support positive climate behaviours in companies that I work with? Might be a bit challenging for us to answer that, but any thoughts?
Well, I think, the companies that we work with, let's start at the basics, right? Reduce, recycle, reuse. Those are basic fundamental things that surely everybody's got, ingrained into their business activities right now. But let's go beyond that and let's talk about what is the plan for those companies that you're involved with to become carbon neutral or offset their carbon generation. What is their aspiration to talk publicly about it and to be bold in their goals? I think we are actually seeing in Australia very, very good leadership from many businesses about the importance of what we do on a daily basis to our overall climate outcomes and the opportunity to not allow the world to warm by more than 1 degree centigrade. And I think we should call out governments for being weak and grossly ineffective in the manner in which they're talking about this. We need to be able to say, do something, get on with it, make a statement, and anything that you can do as individuals within the organizations that you're working for to get the leaders, and if you are a leader, to yourself, display that commentary, I think is well worth doing. And don't be frightened of it, because the vast majority of people who are thinking about these issues want to hear our leaders, describe not just the negative consequences of climate change, but what they think they can do to, support far less global warming as an outcome than would otherwise be negatively achieved.
I think they're all brilliant points, and Rosemary's put a few points on the LinkedIn commentary as well. I think awareness is key. I think the more aware you are of this, the more cognizant you are around your behaviours and actions around, like, for instance, Rose has just mentioned here around takeaway coffee, for instance, and what you do with simple little things with the lid and the cup, but also we need to have a voice more around this space. I mean, I know it's the little things that we could all be doing, but because I think our government or our politicians, I think Australia is down the bottom. I think, isn't it one of the most, I think it's probably not as active in championing this as they could be. I think some of their climate, that's another conversation. But I think we need to be the change we want to see. I think that it's, again, around being aware of what you're trying to do and thinking how you can support you, but also around how we can have more of a voice around this. As you said, speak up, get involved. I think the thing is, it's up to us. It's our world, and we lead our world, so we need to be taking care of our world. So
I helped create in Australia the Jane Goodall Institute way back in 2004, 2005. And Polly, my wife, became the CEO here and then was on the global board of the Jane Goodall Institute, where I was also one of Jane's supporters and advisors. And her whole point here is every little thing we do matters. And it doesn't have to be a huge goal. And you just mentioned coffee, and I like my coffee. Nowadays, I don't drink coffee after 11 o'clock in the morning, by the way, just to not have too much. But every time I forget to take my keep cup to the coffee shop, I get irritated that I've forgotten it. But then I ask for no lid on my takeaway coffee cup, and it's astonishing how people go, "Oh, you don't want a lid?" No, I don't want a lid. I don't need a plastic lid on my coffee. I'm going to drink it. Why do I need a lid? And yeah, okay, you might say that is a tiny, insignificant, inconsequential difference, but at least it's something. I'm not consuming one more piece of plastic that's going to end up, somewhere in the ecosystem. So I think we can all do things of that nature, but at the bigger level, at the leadership level, I do want to hear from bold politicians, calling out, what we should be calling out. In my area, Mossman, Zali Stegall does that very, very well. And I think she's a very brave and bold, independent politician. And I wish we had more of them.
I wish we did too. I'm kind of a little bit vocal about that. And we're kind of running out a little bit of time. I could talk to you for hours, I think, on... Yeah, I'm actually going to do that from now on. I'm not going to have any. I do try to take my keep cup, but I'm the same. I sometimes forget, so I'm definitely not going to ask for the plastic now. So you've definitely made a difference there. There's a couple of other things that I just want to make a comment around. Just people have been commenting, but we don't have time. There is someone that just said, how can we get more women in top leadership roles to fund climate optimizations and crisis security? So that's, again, unfortunately, we're going to have to, unless you do want to quickly answer that, but we're running out of time.
I do. Join women on boards or join chief executive women, make a stance, be bold, don't put up with any kind of behaviors which are totally inappropriate in either your political or business or social environment. Lean in. And, I was the chair of Women on Boards, or a part of Women on Boards. I've worked with them a lot, but there are quite a few such organisations, and they provide, I think, a very, very good way of overcoming what is still a prevalently ridiculous circumstance. I'm totally passionate about this. I think it's a wonderful question, and we have now reached almost 30% of women directors for the ASX 200, but beyond that, it falls into a tiny number, and it's just ridiculous. It should be 50-50. What possible rationale can there be for it not being 50-50 from, well, at least those two gender pools? Maybe there's another third gender pool, but 40-40-20 perhaps is the way to go.
I so agree with you. I wish we had more leaders, and I am going to use gender males that were championing this, to be honest, because I talk to a lot of leaders and senior execs around the globe, and I'm amazed. Some of them actually say to me, what's going on with Australia? These are people overseas going, you just seem to be like 20 years backwards around this whole gender diversity. And they get quite perplexed. Like, they think that, anyway, I'm super passionate about that as well. And I know, Mark, you're amazing in that space, which I just love as well. Rosemary's just mentioned as well around the comments of what she's watched some amazing videos recently about houses being built from recycled plastic bottles. One was a luxury beach house in Florida. So I know we'll have to share us with the link, but we'll definitely as well, you'll see some information. Go to the Courage Conference, everyone, to find out more about the last great first, and get involved, support, follow. We would love your support. We're so honoured and to have you speaking at our Courage Conference in October. And I know you're in Sydney. I'm praying to the COVID gods that you're going to be able to make it. We're also live streaming the conference as well. And don't forget, we've got the Outstanding Leadership Awards, which are championing kind, courageous and inclusive leaders as well. It's happening in March next year. So please nominate. Is there any, it's been such an honour. I was so excited about doing this today with you, Mark. It's been such an honour, and you just exceeded, even though my expectations were already very, very high, you exceeded them because I know how amazing you are. But is there anything else that you'd love to add before we close off this live?
Look, I just want to say thank you, Sonia. It's what you're doing is fantastic, and the way that you've embraced Last Great First and the other speakers at the conference, I think it's going to be a tremendous event. I'm 100% certain we're going to get there. But if not, I'll be there in a virtual fashion for you. So thank you very much indeed for the opportunity of talking about the expedition, the last great thirst, but also my other passions, which are gender diversity and climate change and conservation.
Well, you are remarkable and you're making a difference, and that's what leadership's all about. And thank you for having the courage as well. Thank you for being so courageous. And you'll definitely be there. We'll make sure that it's going to happen, and we'll see you there on stage. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye.